Hey y'all, come in. This is my home office, and this is the first segment of my new YouTube channel. Y'all don't get me started. Glad you came. Sorry we're a couple of days late. This is a lot of new stuff to learn, and it's all new to me, and so I have to do it when I have spare time. And I wanted to start last Saturday, but I'm a little bit late. But anyway, here we are. Remember what I said, be kind, about the rough nature of getting started with this stuff. But first thing I thought of that I told y'all before, that this is going to be things that I'm interested in. All right. So, and it's going to have a wide variety. You're going to have a wide variety of things I'm interested in because I'm up on everything, I can assure you. But as we go along, it'll be obvious the different reasons I'm doing this. And I can tell you right now, it's not for a bunch of clicks and likes. I have a stack of life insurance policies over here at my desk that will take care of my family if I am ever not here to take care of them. But I also think about stuff, especially as we see our society spiral downward in some areas with complete and total ignorance about history, about politics, about religion, and just straight up ignorance. I mean, it's so unbearable. And for somebody who has paid attention for over 40 years, I'm 56, and I've always paid attention since I was a teenager, and I understand the divine nature of our country while we're here and the Constitution. And so part of this for the YouTube channel is so that I can teach my kids. You know, Ethan will be running the camera sometime. And so it's a different thing, because if I were to set him down and say, Ethan, I'm going to tell you about John Quincy Adams, and what a genius he was, and how he traveled Europe, and James Madison or Thomas Jefferson, and the brilliance that they gave to the beginning of the country, he might be pretty bored. But if I'm telling you, he has to listen because he's behind the camera. See, smart by osmosis, right? And so part of that, most of that is for my kids, so they can understand who they are, how we got here, and as they see things continue to change, it is unlikely to get better as we spiral down to the wind-up scene, which, you know, I look at things from today to the day that Jesus will step on the Mount of Olives. I understand it. You know, it's going to happen. You know, don't get me started, because I understand it. And so things are supposed to get pretty bad. And every day we see it getting worse. And it's amazing, from even when I was a kid. And look, nobody has led a more colorful, life than I have. I wrote my book, Triumphing Over My Enemies. It's on Amazon. It's pretty cheap, but the download is free. So if you ever want to check it out, do it. If you really want to know where I came from and how I got to where I wanted to be. But another thing we're going to learn about is my new book. I have a new book I'm going to be doing that I'm working on, called Whispers from the Asylum, and I'm going to tell you some stories about some really lunatics and how mental illness can destroy families, and how it does. And so we'll be doing that as we get closer to that publication. One disclaimer is, when I was a kid, my aunts and uncles would say, if you say shit, hell, or damn, that's not bad. We don't use the F word. But I will try not to do that. But if you do, if that offends you, I don't know what to tell you. Now you can turn on the TV and you're going to get the F-bomb. And so we don't use the F-bomb. And I'll try to keep the minor cussing down to a minimum. But I want to talk about Trump, because that's one of my favorite topics nowadays, just because the media are so engrossed in Trump, because he sucks up all the air in the room. They hate him. They hate his guts, but they have to cover him. Um, uh, when Trump first announced his candidacy, I was among the first among my Facebook friends, well, and the Wilsons. We were among the first to get on the Trump train. Lots of the other people were holding out for the most conservative because, you know, where I'm from, everybody, we're largely conservative. Cruz, which he is a total constitutional scholar and, you know, can argue with the best of them. But I knew that that was not going to be the case. After 8 years of the last nightmare and part of the Bush, the country and the people that vote are more ignorant. And so they're never going to go back to the most conservative. Trump is a businessman. I looked at it from that way, and I was among the first on the Trump train. And I love Donald Trump just because he sticks it in their eyes. And the thing is, the left loved him until he became president, and now he's the boogeyman. It's just so ignorant and so common, you know, and it's so obvious. But I took Ethan and my family to Washington, D.C., and we went to the inauguration. It was the most exciting thing ever. Ethan and I rode the subway. Everybody was nice and polite. There was no trash on the street. It was freezing cold. And we went to the swearing-in ceremony. And it's funny, the next day after that was over, the nuts were in town. The naked ladies with their shirts off, running around. There was trash in the streets, marching and acting up. It was awful. I mean, it was such a contrast from the people that went to the inauguration and the women's march that came the next day. It was just unbelievable. But I'm telling you right now, I wish that when I was 20 or when I was old enough, I had gone to D.C. because I love that stuff. You know, I'm a total political junkie, and I've understood this stuff, and I've watched for 40 years, not just when Bush or Obama came into office, which, you know, we'll talk about that later. Give me a break. But, you know, Trump likes women, and that really is his only vice. I mean, I know that he loves his family. He's a grandfather. I believe he's a good man. And you can bet damn sure that if he weren't a good man, they would have gotten him by now. So I love watching the Chihuahuas yap at the heels of Donald Trump. The night we were there, after the inauguration, I went down to a restaurant to pick up food. And I'm telling you, I'm a five-star restaurant. You know, I'm a restaurant snob because I worked in them, and I love that kind of stuff. D.C. has the coolest restaurants everywhere. Everywhere you look, they're awesome. Leather bars and leather seats and booths and everything, and everybody was really cool. But I met a couple from Iowa, and they had been to one of the parties, and they met Trump. And this was, he was a businessman, and his wife was drop dead gorgeous, and she happened to be a nurse. It was his second wife. But they went to one of the parties, and they met Trump. And they said that when they got in the line to meet him, that that Trump grabbed her hand and said, "Hello, beautiful." And so, and her husband was like, "She's beautiful." I'm like, "Yeah." So, you know, Trump likes women. He's had lots of women. You know, he's a billionaire. So that's really the only thing that that I would say about him, especially with the Stormy Daniels garbage, the attention whores. They make me sick. So anyway, that's it. That was just, I'm going to give you an introduction on what I'm going to be doing. I got to work on this lighting and stuff, so it's going to get better. But I'm going to show you one picture before we go that just tells a little bit about my family history. And it's right over here. This picture is my great-grandmother, and this was taken in around 1922. My great-grandmother and all of her children, she had like 14 or something, but this is my grandmother here. Okay, and so in 1925, my grandfather was walking, he was down in Sarah, Mississippi, is where we're from, about 40 miles south of Memphis, walking on the railroad track, okay, in the rain. And he had his hat pulled down over his head. And so the train came along and whacked him and got him and killed him. And it's funny because my grandmother told me that just at that moment, my great-grandmother was taking a nap. She had been taking a nap. But she distinctly remembered a hand coming on her head and rubbing her hair. And then they were there just a few minutes later to tell her that my great-grandfather had been run over by the train. So, but I just want to show you, just wanted to tell you that she was a smart lady, and so she got insurance money from the railroad. And back then, you know, the girls were housewives and the boys made the living. So, but she was smart enough to take some of that money and send some of the boys to college. Now, my grandmother was a woman, and so she didn't get to go to college, but I just want to, in doing this YouTube channel, to just let you know that that's where, that's why I'm so damn smart. Okay, because I come from smart folks that had good horse sense and common sense, and that's what's going to get us through in the hard time. Okay, so we'll see you in about a week. Good to talk to you. Take care. Bye.